In the small, forgotten town of Elmsbrook, they had long accepted that their corner of the world was a place where the veil between the living and the dead was unusually thin. Among them was a young man named Adrian Blackwood, a quiet and introspective soul who spent most of his days tucked away in the dusty corners of the town's library. Adrian was 23, with dark, unruly hair and eyes that had always been fascinated by the occult, a curiosity that had grown from his late father's collection of arcane books and manuscripts. His father, a renowned historian, had vanished under mysterious circumstances when Adrian was just a boy. One evening, Adrian stumbled upon a hidden compartment in his father's desk. Inside was a tattered leather-covered journal. The journal was filled with his father's handwriting, detailing his research into dark rituals and forbidden knowledge. At the back of the journal was a single, cryptic entry that chilled Adrian to the bone. The devil's symphony can only be summoned by the pure of heart, and once it plays, the soul will never be the same. Intrigued and unnerved, Adrian spent the next few days poring over the journal, piecing together the fragments of his father's research. It spoke of an ancient melody, a composition so malevolent that it could summon a demon from the depths of hell. The journal mentioned a specific sequence of notes, written in a language long forgotten, that could unlock this forbidden power. The idea of contacting his father, of finding answers to his disappearance, was too compelling to ignore. Late one night, under a moonless sky, Adrian decided to play the Devil's Symphony. Once he entered his father's study, he dusted off the old piano with yellowing keys. He placed the journal on the music stand and began to play, his fingers trembling as they danced across the keys, producing an eerie, discordant melody. As the final note hung in the air, a profound silence fell over the room. Then, without warning, the candles in the room flickered and died, plunging him into darkness. A bone-chilling wind swept through the study, and a low, guttural growl resonated from the shadows. "Who dares to summon me?" A voice snarled, dripping with malice. He could feel a presence, something ancient and malevolent, drawing closer. Adrian Blackwood," he stammered, struggling to keep his voice steady. "I seek knowledge. Answers." A sinister laugh echoed through the room, sending shivers down Adrian's spine. "Knowledge comes at a price, mortal," the voice hissed. "Are you willing to pay it?" Before Adrian could respond, an invisible force slammed into him, knocking him to the ground. Pain seared through his body as if his very soul was being torn apart. He screamed, but no sound escaped his lips. The darkness seemed to consume him, and the world faded into an abyss. He found himself in a nightmarish landscape, a twisted version of Elmsbrook where the sky was a perpetual twilight, and the air reeked of sulfur. "You have entered my domain," the voice from earlier intoned, now more resonant and omnipresent. "And now, you will serve me." He felt an overwhelming urge to obey, to submit to the dark will that now controlled him. His limbs moved without his command, and he found himself walking through the twisted landscape, towards a looming, ominous structure in the distance. The structure was a grand cathedral, its spires reaching towards the darkened sky like skeletal fingers. As Adrian entered, the massive doors creaked open, revealing an altar adorned with grotesque statues and symbols of demonic worship. At the center of the altar stood a figure cloaked in shadows, its eyes glowing with an unholy light. "Kneel," the figure commanded, and Adrian's body obeyed. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. It was the face of a man, but with eyes that burned like the fires of hell, and a smile that promised eternal torment. "I am Asmodeus," the demon declared, "one of the 7 princes of hell. And you, Adrian Blackwood, are now my vessel." Adrian felt a surge of despair as the demon's words sank in. He had not summoned his father's spirit, he had summoned a demon of immense power. And now, his soul was bound to it, a puppet in the hands of an ancient evil. He could feel Asmodeus's presence inside him, a constant, gnawing darkness that corrupted his thoughts and actions. At night, he was plagued by horrific visions of torment and suffering, scenes from hell that left him trembling and drenched in sweat. The townsfolk began to notice the change in Adrian. Once a quiet and gentle soul, he now exuded an aura of malevolence. His eyes, once full of curiosity, were now cold and calculating. Adrian tried to fight back, to reclaim his soul from the demon's grasp, but Asmodeus was too strong. The more he resisted, the tighter the demon's grip became. He could feel his humanity slipping away, replaced by an insatiable hunger for power and destruction. One night, as Adrian wandered the deserted streets of Elmsbrook, he came across an old, abandoned church on the outskirts of town. One night, as Adrian wandered the deserted streets of Elmsbrook, he came across an old, abandoned church on the outskirts of town. Drawn to it by an inexplicable force, he entered, hoping to find some semblance of solace. The interior was dark and musty, the air thick with decay. As he approached the altar, a voice echoed through the empty church. Adrian Blackwood, it called, soft yet commanding. He turned to see a figure standing in the shadows, cloaked in robes of pure white. The figure stepped into the light, revealing an elderly woman with kind eyes and a serene smile. "Who are you?" Adrian asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I am Sister Evelyn," the woman replied. "I have been waiting for you. Can you help me?" he pleaded. "Can you free me from this demon?" Sister Evelyn's expression grew solemn. "I can help you, but the path will not be easy. To reclaim your soul, you must confront the demon within and defeat it. I'll do whatever it takes." Sister Evelyn led Adrian to a small chamber beneath the church, a place of ancient power. The walls were covered in holy symbols, and a circle of salt was drawn on the floor, inscribed with protective runes. In the center of the circle lay a silver dagger, its blade gleaming with a cold, otherworldly light. "To confront Asmodeus, you must enter a trance," Sister Evelyn explained. "This dagger is your only weapon. It can sever the bond between you and the demon, but you must strike true and with unwavering resolve." Adrian took a deep breath and stepped into the circle. Sister Evelyn began to chant, her voice rising and falling in a rhythmic cadence that seemed to resonate the air. Adrian felt a strange sensation wash over him as if he were being pulled from his body. In an instant, he was back in the twisted version of Elmsbrook, standing before the grand cathedral. Asmodeus awaited him, his eyes burning with fury. "You dare challenge me?" the demon roared. "You are nothing but a weak, pathetic human." Adrian gripped the dagger tightly. "I will reclaim my soul, no matter the cost." Asmodeus lunged at him, a whirlwind of darkness and rage. Adrian dodged and struck with the dagger, its blade slicing through the demon's shadowy form. Asmodeus howled in pain, but the wound began to close almost immediately. "You cannot defeat me," the demon taunted. "I am eternal." Adrian's resolve wavered, but he remembered Sister Evelyn's words. He focused on the dagger, channeling all his willpower into it. With a primal scream, he plunged the blade into Asmodeus's heart, pouring every ounce of his strength into the strike. Because his resolve wavered, Asmodeus grasped Adrian's hand, stopping the blade mere inches from his heart. "Foolish boy," Asmodeus growled. "Did you think you could truly defeat me?" Adrian's heart sank as he realized the futility of his struggle. With a triumphant roar, Asmodeus wrenched the dagger from Adrian's grasp and cast it aside. "You belong to me now," the demon intoned, his voice a symphony of malice. Adrian felt his consciousness being submerged, swallowed by a wave of darkness. His body convulsed, his eyes rolling back as Asmodeus took full control. Back in the chamber beneath the church, Sister Evelyn watched in horror as Adrian's body spasmed. She could see the malevolent force surging within him, twisting his features into a grotesque mask. "Adrian, fight it," she cried, but her voice was drowned out by the demon's triumphant laughter. With a final, blood-curdling scream, Adrian's eyes snapped open, now glowing with the infernal light of Asmodeus. He rose to his feet, his movements no longer his own. Asmodeus, now fully in control of Adrian's body, turned to Sister Evelyn. "Your little tricks cannot save him," he sneered. "And now, you will witness the true power of hell." With a flick of his wrist, the demon sent Sister Evelyn crashing against the wall. She crumpled to the floor, her body broken and lifeless. Asmodeus stepped over her, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Emerging from the church, the demon surveyed the quiet town of Elmsbrook. "This world will burn," he declared, his voice echoing with unholy resonance. Asmodeus raised his hands, and the ground beneath Elmsbrook trembled. Cracks snaked through the streets, and flames erupted from the earth, consuming buildings and people alike. The town was engulfed in an inferno, reduced to ashes within hours. "This is only the beginning," he promised, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "The world will fall, city by city until nothing remains but darkness." The demon moved on, leaving the smoldering remains of Elmsbrook behind. The skies darkened, and a perpetual twilight enveloped the world. And in the depths of his consciousness, Adrian's soul remained trapped, a silent witness to the horror he had unwittingly unleashed. The Devil's Symphony had played its final, dreadful note, and the world would never be the same.